Over the past decade, rare video games have moved from childhood entertainment to million-dollar collectibles. What were once ordinary retail releases are now treated as historical artifacts with condition, print variants, and production history determining value. These are the 14 most expensive video game collectibles ever sold. Air Raid, Atari 2600, boxed, 1982 release. Air Raid was released for the Atari 2600 by a small publisher called Menavision. Unlike standard Atari cartridges, this title used a bright blue plastic shell with a distinctive T-shaped handle, a design not seen on any other Atari release. That unusual physical format immediately separated it from typical cartridges and later became one of the main reasons collectors sought it out. The game had extremely limited distribution, and production numbers were low. During the early 1980s, most video game packaging was discarded after purchase, meaning complete boxed copies are significantly rarer than loose cartridges. In the vintage gaming market, original packaging from that era can multiply a game's value because survival rates are so low. In 2012, a complete boxed copy sold at auction for approximately $33,600. Sealed Stadium Events for the NES. Stadium Events was released for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1987 by Bandai as part of its Family Fun Fitness line. The game was designed to work with a floor mat controller that detected players' physical movement. Shortly after its release, Nintendo acquired the rights to the fitness accessory, rebranded it as the Power Pad, and replaced Stadium Events with a revised version titled World Class Track Meet. Because of this transition, original copies of Stadium Events were pulled from store shelves. Only a small number remained in circulation before the rebranding occurred. Most surviving copies were opened and used, which makes sealed examples significantly rarer. In retro game collecting, sealed copies from short distribution windows are especially valuable because they combine low supply with strong historical context. In 2017, a sealed copy sold at auction for approximately $41,300, setting a benchmark for one of the rarest officially released NES titles. Nintendo World Championships, Gray Cartridge, 1990 release. The Nintendo World Championships cartridge was created in 1990 for a nationwide video game competition hosted by Nintendo across the United States. The cartridge was never sold in stores. It was designed specifically for tournament play and contained a time challenge format combining shortened versions of Super Mario, Rad Racer, and Tetris. Players competed to achieve the highest score within a fixed time limit. After the tournament ended, a limited number of gray cartridges were given to finalists as prizes. These gray versions are distinct from the even rarer gold cartridges that were later distributed through a magazine contest. Because the gray cartridges were not part of any retail release, their production numbers were extremely limited, estimated at around 90 units. Condition, authenticity, and documented ownership history are critical in determining value, since counterfeit cartridges have appeared over the years. In 2020, a verified gray cartridge sold for approximately $75,000. Pokémon Red, Game Boy, sealed high grade, 1998. Pokémon Red was originally released in North America for the Game Boy in 1998. While millions of copies were sold, very few remained factory sealed in near-perfect condition. During the late 1990s, most buyers opened their games immediately, and packaging was rarely preserved carefully. As a result, sealed copies with sharp corners, intact shrink wrap, and minimal wear are extremely uncommon. In the modern collectible market, third-party grading companies evaluate sealed games using a numerical scale that measures both box condition and seal quality. Higher grades indicate minimal flaws and strong preservation. Because Pokémon became one of the most successful entertainment franchises in history, early high-grade sealed copies carry both nostalgic demand and cross-generational appeal. In 2021, a high-grade sealed copy of Pokémon Red sold at auction for approximately $84,000. Gold Nintendo World Championships Cartridge, NES. The Gold Nintendo World Championships cartridge was produced in 1990 as part of a promotional campaign following Nintendo's nationwide video game tournament. Unlike standard retail games, this cartridge was never sold in stores. It was distributed exclusively through a contest held by Nintendo Power Magazine, making it a prize item rather than a commercial release. Only 26 gold cartridges were awarded, which immediately established extreme scarcity. The cartridge contains a timed competition program combining segments of Super Mario Bros., Rad Racer, and Tetris. Players had a fixed time limit to accumulate the highest possible score across all 3 games. This format was specifically designed for tournament play and does not exist in standard retail releases. The gold cartridge is visually distinct due to its metallic gold plastic shell, which differentiates it from the gray tournament cartridges given to finalists during the live events. Because the gold versions were contest prizes, survival rates are exceptionally low. Authenticity is critical, as reproduction shells and modified gray cartridges have appeared in the collector market. In 2014, a verified Gold Nintendo World Championships cartridge sold at auction for approximately $100,088. Super Mario 3 sealed early print. Super Mario Bros. 3 was released in North America for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1990 and became one of the best-selling games of its era. Although millions of copies were produced, sealed early print versions are extremely rare today. Most games were opened immediately and heavily played, and packaging from that period was commonly discarded. Collectors pay close attention to early print indicators, such as packaging code variations, logo placement, and specific box design details that identify first production runs. These subtle differences distinguish original releases from later reprints. When a sealed copy also receives a high numeric grade from a professional grading company, its scarcity increases significantly. In 2020, a sealed early print copy sold at auction for approximately $156,000, marking a major moment in the rise of graded video game sales. Final Fantasy VII PlayStation Sealed Black Label High Grade. Final Fantasy VII was released in North America in 1997 for the original PlayStation and quickly became one of the most influential role-playing games ever produced. It introduced cinematic storytelling, full-motion video cutscenes, and a large-scale 3D world to a mainstream global audience. While millions of copies were sold, most were opened and played extensively, especially because the game spans 3 discs and encouraged long-term use. Collectors distinguish early retail copies by the black label packaging. This version represents the original release before Sony introduced the later Greatest Hits reprint, which came in a different colored case design. Black label copies from the first print run are more desirable because they reflect the game's initial launch period. When a copy remains factory sealed and receives a high numeric grade from a professional grading company, it becomes significantly rarer. A high grade indicates exceptional box condition, sharp edges, minimal surface wear, and an intact original seal without tears or replacement wrapping. Because PlayStation jewel cases are fragile and prone to cracking, sealed examples preserved in near pristine condition are uncommon. In 2021, a sealed black label high-grade copy sold at auction for approximately $168,000. The Legend of Zelda NES Early Production Sealed Copy. The Legend of Zelda was first released for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1987 and introduced battery-backed save functionality, which allowed players to store progress directly on the cartridge. While the title itself was widely distributed, early production-sealed copies are significantly rarer than standard retail versions. Collectors distinguish early prints by specific packaging characteristics, including the round Nintendo Seal of Quality variant and production code differences printed on the box. These details indicate manufacturing from the initial release window rather than later reprints. Because most copies were opened and played, factory-sealed examples in high condition are scarce, particularly those verified and graded by professional authentication services. In 2021, an early production-sealed copy sold at auction for approximately $288,000, establishing it as one of the highest-selling non-Mario NES titles at the time. Nintendo PlayStation Prototype Console, circa 1991. The Nintendo PlayStation prototype was created during a short-lived partnership between Nintendo and Sony in the early 1990s. The collaboration aimed to produce a Super Nintendo console equipped with a CD-ROM drive, combining cartridge-based gaming with emerging disc technology. At the time, CD-ROM storage offered significantly greater capacity than traditional cartridges, allowing for expanded audio, video, and data content. The agreement between the two companies collapsed before the system reached commercial release. Nintendo ultimately shifted its partnership to another manufacturer, while Sony continued development independently, leading to the launch of the original PlayStation in 1994. Because the joint project was cancelled, only a small number of prototype units were produced, and most were believed to have been destroyed. The surviving prototype features both a Super Nintendo cartridge slot and a built-in CD-ROM drive, representing a pivotal turning point in gaming history. Its importance lies not only in rarity, but in its connection to the origins of Sony's PlayStation brand. As a piece of unreleased hardware tied directly to a major industry shift, it carries historical significance beyond typical collectibles. In March 2020, a working Nintendo PlayStation prototype sold at public auction for approximately $360,000. Pokémon Red, Game Boy, WATA 9.8A+, 1998. Pokémon Red was released for the original Game Boy in 1998 and became one of the defining titles of its generation. Although millions of units were sold worldwide, sealed copies in near-perfect condition are exceptionally rare. Most copies were opened immediately and heavily played, and handheld game packaging from the late 1990s was not typically preserved carefully. A WATA grade of 9.8A+ indicates extremely high box condition with a strong factory seal. The numeric score measures structural integrity, edge wear, and surface condition, while the letter grade reflects seal quality. Copies graded at this level are close to pristine, with minimal visible flaws. As Pokémon grew into one of the largest entertainment franchises in the world, demand for early sealed releases intensified. In 2022, a WATA 9.8A+ sealed copy sold at auction for approximately $480,000. Super Mario Bros. NES sealed 9.6 WATA. Super Mario Bros. Was released in North America for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1985 and is widely credited with revitalizing the home video game market after the 1983 industry crash. Although millions of copies were eventually produced, early sealed examples from the initial production runs are extremely rare. Collectors identify early variants through details such as box code formatting, hang tab presence, and the specific style of the Nintendo Seal of Quality. These small packaging differences indicate print timing and distribution phase. A sealed copy graded 9.6 by WATA indicates near pristine condition, meaning the box shows minimal wear and the factory seal remains intact with no significant flaws. In April 2021, a sealed 9.6 graded copy sold at auction for approximately $660,000, setting a new record for a single video game at that time. The Legend of Zelda NES First Production Sealed Copy, 1987 release. The Legend of Zelda was one of the earliest NES games to feature battery-backed save memory, allowing players to continue progress without passwords. While many copies were sold, first production sealed variants are significantly rarer than later releases. Collectors identify first production copies by specific packaging indicators, including the early round seal of quality and the absence of certain later box revisions. These details confirm that the copy originates from the initial manufacturing window rather than subsequent print runs. Because most copies were opened and used, surviving factory-sealed examples in high condition are extremely scarce. In July 2021, a first production-sealed copy sold at auction for approximately $870,000, briefly becoming the most expensive video game ever sold at that time. Super Mario 64, Nintendo 64, WATA 9.8A++. Super Mario 64 was released in 1996 as a launch title for the Nintendo 64 and is widely recognized for pioneering 3D platform gameplay. Although the game sold millions of copies, sealed first print examples in near-perfect condition are extremely rare. Most copies were opened and played extensively, and Nintendo 64 cardboard packaging was particularly prone to wear and damage. A WATA grade of 9.8A++ indicates exceptionally high preservation. The 9.8 reflects near-flawless box condition, while the A++ seal rating confirms a strong, well-preserved factory seal with minimal defects. High-grade examples from the mid-1990s are uncommon because sealed collecting was not widespread during that era. In July 2021, a WATA 9.8 A++ sealed copy sold at Heritage auctions for approximately $1,560,000, setting a new world record for the most expensive video game ever sold at that time. Super Mario Bros. NES WATA 9.8A+. Super Mario Bros. Was originally released in North America in 1985 and became the defining title of the Nintendo Entertainment System. Early sealed copies from the initial production runs are exceptionally rare, particularly those preserved in near-perfect condition. Packaging from the mid-1980s was typically opened immediately, and sealed examples were not commonly saved by consumers. Collectors differentiate early copies through details such as box code formatting, hang tab configuration, and specific seal variations. A WATA grade of 9.8A+ indicates extremely high box integrity with minimal wear and a strong factory seal. Very few copies from the first release window have survived at this condition level. In August 2021, a WATA 9.8A+ sealed copy sold for approximately $2 million, establishing a new benchmark for the highest publicly reported sale of a single video game.